But at some moment, I was introduced to the world of subtle energies. I met several people who was very talented. So one night, I invited him to our laboratory, where I have special device with plasma inside, and I asked him, okay, can you please send your intention to this little device? And of course, I had chosen one of this process, and with his intention, he was able to influence it and to change physical parameters. And I was really deeply impressed. I would start doing experiments, and we were able to demonstrate that light that we stimulate from our body, it is a reflection of our not physical body, but it is of our emotion, our intention, and all our internal conditions. So our psychology, our spiritual. So it took many years of experiments, of different trials to prove it, but now seems to me it's proven. And now the device that we have now, BioWell, it is very reliable and convenient device.
Today, I have Dr. Konstantin Korotkov. He is a pioneering physicist and inventor known for his 40-plus years in research bridging the science of the human energy field. He has published over 300 different scientific papers and dozens of books. And on this interview, we're going to discuss about the BioWell imaging devices and how that connects to the human biofield and the larger ideas of consciousness, spirituality, and all of those exciting things. So please welcome Dr. Konstantin Korotkov.
Okay, hello, nice to meet you.
Konstantin, thank you so much for taking your time for this interview. Again, one of my passion is speaking about the biofield, and I love how you have bridged the science with this amazing BioWell device in measuring something called the biofield, which for thousands of years, we've, many different traditions have talked about this human energy field. Now, before we kind of get into that, Konstantin, you began your career in conventional physics, and now you're a leader in this biofield research. So what inspired you to start investigating the human energy field in the first place?
Okay, so my background was quantum physics, but at some moment, I was introduced to the world of subtle energies. So it happened it was just at random. I met several people who was very talented spiritual healers. And then I had one friend of them, and I've offered them, okay, but if you can influence people, would it be possible for you to influence some physical process? So one night I invited him to our laboratory, where I have special device with plasma inside. And I asked him, okay, can you please send your intention to this little device? And of course, I had oscillogram that was running, and it was based on so-named phase processes. It means that I can register one process, but this is quasi-unstable process. So it's like, all our life is quasi-unstable. It's like running a bicycle. You can run it only if you move. If you stop, you can stop for several seconds, but then you fell off. Yes. So same here. And there are many processes in our environment, in nature, that have this nature. So they are running, they are quite stable, but in reality, they are unstable. It means that little influences can change their parameters. So I've chosen one of this process, and with his intention, he was able to influence it and to change physical parameters. For me, it was very impressive, and I was really deeply impressed. I've told about this to my chief, but my chief was very angry. He told, how did you manage to bring a person to our laboratory without my permission? It's forbidden. And plus, what you are doing, it's total nonsense. Because he was total materialist. It was in Soviet time, in materialistic time. But for me, it was impressive. And from that time on, I started developing this line. At some moment, I was introduced to one person, another person. I would start doing experiments. First, it was on Kirlian photography. Then, 90s, I developed this GDV technology to have this Kirlian effect, Kirlian photography, to have it in digital form. And we were able to demonstrate that light that we stimulate from our body, it is a reflection of our not physical body only. Yes, physical body, yes, but it is of our emotion, our intention, and all our internal conditions. So, of course, our psychology, but even much more than that, our spiritual. So it took many years of experiments, of different trials to prove it. But now seems to me it's proven. And now device that we have now, BioWell, it is very reliable and very convenient device, very friendly device that practically everybody can use and test it.
Thank you for sharing that story and that journey, because I think it takes very open-minded professionals like yourself in the field of science, right? Because you are going against the grain of, back at that time was very much materialistic, like you mentioned. And like you're saying now, there is a huge shift in what we call post-materialism science, and sort of acknowledging what you're talking about and what so many ancient healing practices have been doing for thousands of years. And you mentioned, right, just with that intention, right, it can change sort of the physical parameters in that setup. So I'm really excited to hear, what is your definition of the biofield?
Yeah, first of all, we need to understand it's not something strange or weird. It is a very well understandable notion in the modern science. We have we can measure our electrocardiogram, encephalogram. We can measure the movement of blood in our vessels. We can measure activity of our nervous system. But what does it mean? Part of this, those are current of electrons, and this any current of electrons creates field. So this is a part of this biological field. We emit those waves. We emit electromagnetic fields. And that's why now we have devices like Squid device, which allows us to measure encephalogram remotely. Same as electrocardiogram, we can measure it remotely. But it's only a little part of biological field because we emit photons. First, it was proven by Professor Gurvich in 1920s, 1930s. Then it was developed by Professor Pope in Germany. And now we understand we all emit photons. So we can measure those photons in total darkness. And what does mean photon? It's wave. It's a field because we know that it is the problem of duality. Any particle, any photon, it is particle and wave. So we emit waves. And biofield, it is a complex of different emanations and waves and fields that we produce due to activity of our body, due to communication with the environment, and due to communication with the universe. It means with other people and with the universe as the whole system that surrounds ourselves, that surrounds our sun, that surrounds our galaxy. So we are part of galaxy. We are part of universe due to this energy field.
Beautiful. If it wasn't for you, if someone else said that, they were like, oh, this guy's kind of, crazy saying that we're part of the universe, right? And everyone thinks that we're separate, right? Because we're these separate individual bodies. And how can we be part of the universe there? But what you're describing is something so fundamental, right? It's not something new, and it's something that has been proven already. And I've read a couple of studies on how these ultra weak biophotonic emissions even disappear when animals die, or when plants start dying. They start to decrease in their emissions. So, it gives so much validation to that quote, right? We're beings made out of light, right? I'm sure you've heard of that. So it's such a beautiful way to describe this human field, and it's very normal. Like you mentioned, we have things that measure our EEG brainwaves, are for our cardiovascular system. So, and I think on that topic, we're talking about the BioWell devices that you have created and developed and innovated. So for those that have not heard of the BioWell machines, how does it work in terms of measuring this biofield around a person's body?
So we are measuring only part of biofield. We are measuring photons emitted by our body, by our hands, by our fingers, stimulated by electromagnetic fields. So, what does it mean? We have channels, mediums. Now it's proven, no doubts, and we have very deep scientific concepts that describe this. So, and this is the channel of moving energy because we are based on energy. We are energy beings. Without energy, we are nothing. We are dead. And we stimulate photons from a finger, but this finger is related by meridium to different organs and systems. So by measuring this emission of photons, we are measuring activity of this particular meridium. And that means activity of particular organs or systems. So which this idea allows us to make algorithms, and this algorithms was created by me many years ago, more than maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And this is proven by hundreds of papers published by different researchers, medical doctors, scientists, who has proven that this idea is really true. So when we are measuring photons from our fingers, we are measuring activity of our mediums. We are measuring activity of our chakras. And it's all related not only to physical body, but as I mentioned, it is related to our emotional state and it's related to our spiritual state. Now we have proven it, it's no doubt.
Yeah, and you brought up a couple of very interesting points because I'm also an acupuncturist myself, so I understand all the meridians that you're talking about. And what's very interesting is that you're saying that just by measuring the coronal discharge from our fingers using the BioWell devices, you can kind of reverse engineer and kind of visualize the biofield that way. And this is very different from people that do aura photos, right? The aura cameras that we see online. This is much more precise. Is that correct?
Of no, it's absolutely. You see, what we are doing, it is based on the idea of holographic structure of our system. We have all information about system in iris, and you know that's a part of medical curriculum. In the ear, again, you have practically all points in the ear. On hands, you have many different points. On soles, you have many different points. What does it mean? It means that our system keep information about all the system in every part of our body. You know, now we have a lot of, I would say, proof that every cell of our body has its own memory. You know that now we have many experiments with heart transplant, liver transplant, when people acquire memory of passed away person. So it means that cells of this organ has this memory, and they was quite strong to induce this memory to a person. So that means that we can measuring from fingers because it is the easiest way how to connect to meridiums. But at the same time, we can measure from different parts of the body. We did experiments with souls, with toes, and it works very well. But just our BioWell instrument, it's very convenient and easy to use. That's was my idea to create this type of instrument to make it easy to use, affordable, non-expensive, and my vision that more and more doctors and practitioners and people would be using this.
Yeah, and it's such a very important mission you're on because I think as you've noticed so many spiritual healers, energy healers, right? They have these case studies of people getting better, but there's no way to prove it, right? Where's the proof is on the pudding, right? On the paper. You need some sort of measurement, some sort of before and after. And I think science, you know, talks about the placebo effect so much, and maybe it just randomly spontaneous healing, as we know, and I think that what you're talking about is a really a revolutionary device, right? If brought out to the mainstream, can have huge impacts on the way we look at health. And like you're mentioning, the cells have memory, right? How does, getting a heart transplant and then you're picking up memories of someone else that was deceased, right? So that totally goes against the materialistic. But my next question for you, Konstantin, is that you mentioned about the chakras, you mentioned about the energy meridians, and you said that we're all beings of energy. And I think that this is where science is meeting the spiritual component, right? Because you said also there's the spiritual aspects of health. So what is your perspective on what makes this energy? What, of course, we understand the physiology, the biology that runs the energy of our mitochondria and ATP and electron transport chain. We understand that, but what is your sort of view on the biofield, and why do we have this energy, and why do we have these chakras and these meridians?
Of course, why seems to me it's not the right question, because it is a part of our internal structure, and we have different levels of our system. We have quantum level, and this is level of electrons, photons, and now we have more and more data that photons are very important part of our physiology. That in all physiological reactions we have photons, and this is not just byproduct. It's very important messenger that brings and takes information. So next level, there's a level of fields, as we mentioned, biofields. And again, we have many different levels of these biofields. It's not just one. It's not just like only electromagnetic or only the field of smell, field of molecules that we have as well. And then next level, it's the level of chemical reactions. And it's again very, very important, and all modern pharmaceutical based on these chemical reactions. Next level, of course, there's a structural level, because we have structures. And then we have more subtle levels. So what I've told about, this is all materialistic levels. But we have next subtle levels. And this is our main difference from animal world. Because we know that higher animals, they have emotions, no doubts. Every owner of dogs or cats, they understand this. And they know this very well. But their emotions are very simple. They are primitive. They are like emotions of a little child. And we, when we grow, when we are developing, we have more and more complicated emotions, not only positive, but negative as well. And this is the influence of our brain, of our mind, of our consciousness, and of our spiritual side. We know that spiritual people who believe that we are not just only material, but we are much more than that, they usually feel much better than people who are only materialistic. Because now one of the problems of the modern Western world is also depression. Depression, because people live only on materialistic ideas, in materialistic world, and if they fail in something, they go to depression. If you understand that you are part of universe, that you are part of the universal spirit, you are part of informational fields of humanity, then you live much better. You live much more happy life, because you understand that it's not only yourself who create this around yourself, but in the whole society, in the whole community of people worldwide. And we can change something around ourselves, but we can't change on big scale. So we can't stop the war, even with the best intention. It's impossible, but we can help people who are suffering with our intention. That we can do that. So it means that our system has so many different levels, complicated levels, and we need to understand this. We need to accept this and try to use it. If you try to live on higher plane, on higher spirit, then your life would be, then you enjoy everything that we have around ourselves. Our world is fantastic. We can have music, different music. We can enjoy this different music from centuries back and what we have now. We can enjoy pieces of arts. Again, it's part of our life. We can enjoy our friends. We can enjoy good food, good wine. We can enjoy travels as well because the world is open. And when you travel to other countries, you enjoy it. For me, any time when I visit other countries, it's enjoying time, fantastic time.
Mm.
So it means that if you think about higher topics, then you make your life full. If you live only on materialistic topics, then you make it very poor.
Yeah. It reminds me, I think you've said this before, that we're spiritual beings living this human experience, right? And it's a lot of what these ancient traditions, spiritual philosophies have talked about. And this is why energy is really everything, right? And they describe the soul as a pure consciousness with energy as well. So, and it's really important, right? Because we can enjoy this life, as you're saying, and enjoy every aspect of it, and use things such as your BioWell device to help people see another layer of reality, and help improve their health in a way that might not be so obvious, that the current mainstream is catching up to.
And you're absolutely right. You mentioned that BioWell may be very useful, helping practitioners, helping people, helping customers to understand what's going on. Because we know that in modern integrative medicine, informational medicine, would it be homeopathy? Would it be acupuncture? Would it be subtle influences? Would it be different electromagnetic devices? It's impossible to see immediate effect because those are subtle influence. The difference from Ozempics, for example, that and these chemical products, they operate on particular chemical process in our body, particular physiological process. When you use this, I would say, informational medicine, you operate on very subtle level. And of
Mhm.
course, it's very difficult to accept the response or change very fast. But
Mhm.
with BioWell, we can follow up because we see energy. We see energy response, and it's
Yeah.
very fast response. Only later on we'll have physiological response. It will come if it's proper therapy, but it will be later. But first, we see energy response, and this we can see immediately. We have
And I want to touch upon that, Konstantin, because if so, suppose someone new, they're walking into a wellness clinic, right? They go to the BioWell machine. I know that the BioWell can tell you things about your overall energy levels, your stress levels, the balance between your organ systems. Can you share a little bit of information on what someone new walking into using the BioWell scan device, what kind of information can they get?
so BioWell. It's a part of so named predictive medicine. So our goal not just to heal people, not to treat people, but to prevent potential problems. And BioWell, it's a very good device to see potential problems or weak zones of the body. This is from physical point of view. Because we all have our weak zones, weak areas. And when we become older, we have all those weak zones, weak areas, they betray us. That's why we have this problem, that problem. But these problems, all those problems was embedded long before, maybe from genetics, maybe from our upbringings, from the food we had during our life, from environment, electromagnetic environment in particular, that we have around ourselves. And very important, from our stress. This is very important part as well. So that is why with BioWell, first of all, we can see different organs and systems, and we can see where we have weak zones or zones of attention. Then we see level of stress. We see balance between parasympathetic and sympathetic system. And this is very strong indication of our internal psychological state. And then practitioner or some specialists can make analysis of psychological state. Okay, let's see. We see that your level of stress is 5 or 6. We understand you have very strong disbalance between sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, and then we need to understand what's going on. And BioWell, by chakra analysis, allows us to make this conclusion, which allows us, well, of very trained practitioners to understand what is going on. and of course to give some recommendations.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying, that it's a predictive medicine, right? It's a tool to find out things before they materialize into the physical body. And what I teach about the biofield is like exactly what you're saying, is that before any disease shows up in the body, it first appears in our field, right? With these imbalances that you're talking about. And it sounds like with the BioWell device, it can pick up the subtle shifts after an energy healer working on you, or any type of holistic healing modality, and to the point that you're saying that you can also measure these emotional and mental shifts, right? If there's sudden stress or fear, that the device can also pick up on that, right? And it's hard to fake that, right? That's because you're having this device and you have this before and after. So can you comment on that mind body connection and how the thoughts and emotions seem to also affect our biofield?
Yes, you're absolutely right, because you are absolutely right mentioning mind-body connections, because we understand our body, it is product of not only our physical side, but our emotions, our spiritual side. And we influence by our mind, we influence our body. It is very well known between doctors, psychologists, that if people have low level of stress, they can be healed much easier than people who have big distress. If people are in distress, if they are in low emotional state, then it is very difficult for them to deal with their illness. So
Mm.
the reason of illness may be physical, but the outcome would be very big extent will be psychological and emotional.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very important. And as I say, stress is like the number one hidden killer in people, right? Because so many people are in a constant state of stress, but it's hard to tell the subtle shifts, right? If they're becoming more stressed or not. And I think it's another, you know, where medicine is moving towards is this preventative, personalized, highly precise way of measuring not only the body as we know it in mainstream medicine, but that mind body connection that the BioWell seems to pick up very well. And this kind of comes to my next question, Konstantin, is that this notion of consciousness, right? And I think that, consciousness is like the top down approach to health at the end of the day. From what you mentioned in the beginning, how sort of these spiritual people are able to manipulate physical systems, right? Just with their mind and their intention. And what you're talking about with the BioWell devices, able to pick up these shifts, these changes in the biofield with the BioWell device. So what is your view on consciousness, and is our collective energy fields connected to each other? Is there a thing like group consciousness and how that affects other people? We're swimming around, all these fields then, if that's true.
You know that this July we had a big World Congress on Consciousness in Barcelona, and it was hundreds of people, more than 1,000 people, and it was about 100 different presenters. So because consciousness now is a very big topic in science. Of course, it's a big topic now for neuroscience, because we have new instruments which allows to study human brain. That's why no doubts that our consciousness related to the brain, no doubts. And it was many presentations which deal with neuroscientific processes in different parts of the brain, how it influences our consciousness, how it influences our vision, how it influences our attitude to life, and so on. Leading neuroscientists, they accept that consciousness is not just product of the brain. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Second. Okay, now it's ready. I don't phone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I can edit that part out. Yeah. You're talking about consciousness is
Yes,
maybe
yes,
not
yes.
in the brain.
So
Yeah.
consciousness, it's not just product of the brain, as we produce different juices in our stomach. No, consciousness is much more than that. It's a part of a universal field. It's a part of a field of the whole humanity. That's why we talk about collective informational field. It's a part of informational field of the universe. And now we have more and more data that we are connected with some other civilizations by our consciousness, by our information field. And that's why we have a lot of ideas about scientists, creators, artists who got ideas from information fields. So it means that consciousness, for me, it's very big, I would say, topic that combine both our individual activity, our individual mind, our individual ideas and vision of all humanity, and even more than that, of all the universe. Again, I tell you again, we are a part of universal consciousness. This idea was always embedded in our civilization as an idea of God, and it was many regions that associate gods with different natural processes. But finally, in all our top level religions, we have the idea of one supreme spiritual God.
You answered my question, because I was going to ask you, like, what is God, what is source? And I think you tied that very well together. And this is where is very exciting for me on speaking of, God and source and consciousness, is that, just what you mentioned about that amazing conference in Barcelona, where you have these hundreds of different scientists and professionals coming together, talking about something, 20 years ago, you'd be labeled crazy still, right? It's too far out there. But like you're saying, it now it's almost impossible to prove that it's wrong, right? All the evidence points in this direction, and it's really where we kind of see science and spirituality kind of coming together and being that bridge. And what I really find interesting about the biofield is that I find that the biofield could be that bridge, right? Because if we understand that where attention goes, energy flows, and you have this, with your BioWell device to measure it, or if you have another practitioner that feels this changes, these shifts in these fields, well, that's a clear way to show that this reality is more than just the physical materialistic science that we've been indoctrinated with, and that consciousness seems to be the fundamental source of our reality, is in which you're saying is the source is connected to the universe, and what all these ancient traditions talk about God. So that's really, really exciting. And this leads on to my next question for you, Konstantin, because you've been doing this for over 40 years now, which is a very long time. You mentioned about your vision of incorporating these BioWell devices into mainstream medicine. Is there anything else you envision for the future in biofield sciences and consciousness? Where do you see the future of medicine and humanity as a conscious being, a collective group of beings, moving towards in the future?
You're absolutely right. For almost 40 years, I was trying to implement this into classical Western medicine. And I had support from top level of ministers, but it all failed because our modern classical medicine based on materialistic ideas. It is based on mechanistical ideas of 19th century and of course on chemicals. So modern medicine, it is fantastic, it is powerful, it has great success, and it allows us to live much longer. It allows to support life for people, to resolve a lot of urgent situations. But at the same time, it lacks some component. It deals only with illnesses. It doesn't work with people. There are no people in modern medicine. It's only labels. When you go to a doctor, you are not interested to a doctor as a person. You are interested only as where do you have pain, what's the reason of this pain, which processes may be related. That's it. So now we are moving slowly but steadily to absolutely new type of medicine, to holistic medicine, integrative medicine, which takes into account both our physical body, like our vehicle, our mind, and our activity, which is very important for all behavior and for everything, and our emotions, our consciousness, our spiritual side. And this is the medicine of the future, not the medicine of a battlefield when you need just to save life. It is important, very important, but it only should be a part of medicine. It should be a part of urgency medicine. But we talk about, again, preventive medicine, medicine that helps people to live not only longer, but to live good life. There are many people who live up to 100 now, but they lay down like vegetables, or they have Alzheimer, they have dementia, and it is very difficult for all their relatives to deal with them. Very difficult. I know this on my personal experience. So the goal of this new medicine to keep people strong and active up to very end, and then lay down, go to sleep, and die. That's the best way how we can finish our life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, very simply said. And I think that that resonates me, right? Because when I think about trying to live in this human world and understand that we're these spiritual beings, right? Living in this temporary physical world, we can enjoy it, right? We can optimize it. And like what you're saying, a lot of our older generations of folks that struggle with chronic disease such as Alzheimer's and dementia. Imagine them if they had a BioWell machine when they were born, right? Imagine if they were able to work on their biofield way decades in advance and see the difference to them now. And that's my shared vision as well, Konstantin, is to really put the biofield as another pillar to health. And then as you have tried for many years, and for younger people like me, we always give credit, right, to the great people like yourself that have pushed this work for, like you said, over 4 decades. It was not easy, right? It was probably the hardest 4 decades ago, but now it's probably the easiest it's ever been to talk about these things. So and I have to give my appreciation and thanks for all the work that you have done in all of your years. And I've seen your devices, and I'm happy to get one very soon too, to try out for myself for the first time as well. And speaking of trying your devices, for people that are interested in your work and trying to also get a BioWell machine, where can they find you?
Okay, so it's very easy. We have a website, BioWell, bio-well.com, and there we have all information about this. So now we are preparing, we have BioWell device, and it's very reliable, very stable. It's proven by many research by different scientists. We have hundreds of papers, maybe 500 papers published by different scientists, which prove that it's really right algorithms that we use to interpret data. But of course, it needs some training, it needs understanding. That's why we always prepare some courses. Now we're preparing a new course that will be available for all interested people. We give training lessons, and we have our representatives in more than 50 countries now, on all the continents. So it's very easy to find the nearest representative if you look to biowell.com, or you send email to info@biowell.com, and then they will suggest, okay, you can go to this person, you can contact by phone, you can go there nearby, and you see what's going on. You see how it is reliable. Do you really need it or not? But it's one very important topic. Existing BioWell, it is BioWell Pro. It is designed for professionals. That's why it's not easy for lay people to understand what's going on. Of course, for them, it's easy to understand. You have energy field before and after. And you see, it's very easy. You have stress level before and after. You have chakras scattered and aligned. So that's easy to understand. That is why now we're preparing for sale new type of device, so named BioWell Mini. It is a little device of this size. It operates with mobile phone. We have application that you can download from any market. And this device designed for people. So it runs both on iPhone, on Android, on any type of devices, and which allows you to see your energy fields, to see whether, to understand whether it is full around it, and it's like a shield around your body, or it is scattered, it is jagged, it has holes, breaks. Then it's every hole and every break means something. Then you can see your chakras, whether it is aligned, like after meditation, and for people who meditate, it's very typical, or it is scattered again. Whether they are stable or they change from time to time. So it's all very easy science, very easy to understand. And level of stress, of course, level of energy, and then you go to chiropractor, you go to acupuncture, you take measurements before and after. Because this device is very little, you can take it with you and use your own mobile phone and to see how it looks like. And one more than that, you know that we have a very interesting sensor, so named Sputnik sensor, which allows us to measure the energy of environment. This is very, very interesting. I really enjoy this sensor, and I have tens of papers published on this topic. For example, just last year, or several years, I was doing big study on different pyramids worldwide in different countries, both in South America, in Mexico, in Asia, in Egypt, in Russia, and we were able to demonstrate that all those subjects, all those pyramids, they have their own special energy. So it wasn't just construction, but it was very special energy, and we know that it was spiritual system. So now I'm looking forward to go to Borobudur in Indonesia to see there the energy there. Our colleagues did it, and it was very interesting data. So, but with this mini device, you can do it yourself. You can go in any part of the world and take this measurement to see the energy of environment, and to see your own energy, to see how this particular pyramid or holy center or yoga center or some temple, mosque have influence on your own system, whether you resonate with its energy or not, because we understand it's not for everybody. Some people adore India, some people don't like India. So you need to feel it. And of course, it depends on a lot of topics. It depends on our previous lives. It depends on our background, on many, many different topics. So, but by measuring this, you will understand. And then you will understand your own background. You are understand your own limitations in your life. And then you will be your own psychologist, and you will be able to overcome your problems and make your life much easier, much better. Because our main goal, to make life not easy, but nice, and enjoy our life, because our life is tremendous, fantastic journey.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Konstantin. And I think, as my spiritual teacher, Master Choa Koksui, who's the founder of Pranic Healing, who has used, Carillion photography and the GDV before for our textbooks for the healing modalities. He said the easiest thing is to make something complicated. The hardest thing is to make something simple, right? And I think that you're getting to that point and making it simple for that everyone can use it, right? And to show these powerful effects, right? And to show that the power of our mind and our emotions, but also the environment and what you're talking about in these different sacred sites such as the pyramids, or even your local yoga studio. So, and it's powerful to have that ability to validate it, right? Just beyond our human perception there. So, and thank you. And I will leave all the links for the audience to check out, your BioWell website, and for more information for those who are interested in the courses as well. As we get to the last part of our interview here, Konstantin, is there any final words of advice you would have for someone? Maybe they're a aspiring scientist, if they're aspiring doctor that is interested in the biofield, but they feel scared, of the criticism that comes from mainstream medicine and the paradigm that medicine is now. What kind of advice would you give these people that are looking into sort of investigating and becoming a professional like yourself in this field?
That we live in a very complicated time. It is a time of bifurcation. So all our civilization is coming to a new stage of development. From materialistic world, we transform to information world. We now developing artificial intelligence, and this is tremendous positive side and tremendous negative side. All the war that we have now at this particular moment, it is based now on using AI. So, what people should do in this very complicated time? How you should develop yourself? For me, first of all, and most important, not to be afraid. Not to be afraid to move forward in unknown areas. You mentioned, you're absolutely right, that for most part of my life, I was criticized, I was attacked on different levels. It was very complicated sometimes, but slowly I was moving forward, step by step. And as with coming to the mountain, if you go step by step, finally you will be at the summit. So we are not at the summit. No, not at all. We are moving because, as I always tell, there are no one goal. There are movement. If you move forward, if you believe in your high destination, if you want to achieve something high, not just to earn more money, to have a new car, new building, new apartment. No, you need to think about your own development. People who live in very rich apartments, they're very unhappy sometimes. So it means that if you want to be in balance with your world, with your environment, if you want to move forward, don't be afraid. Do what you feel is good for you. And it may be difficult sometimes. Of course, you will overcome not only coming up, but coming down, up, down. It's normal. But if you are persistent, if you believe in what you are doing, and now we know that all this informational medicine, spiritual medicine, it is proven. Now we don't need to prove it more and more. A lot of data on this topic. So, and we know that it's the tremendous way how we can help other people to be not only well, not to be only healthy, but to be happy. And this is most important in our life. So don't be afraid and move forward to higher aims, higher goals.
Well, Dr. Konstantin Korotkov, thank you so much. That's beautifully said. And, you really practice what you preach, right? You're the person that walked the talk in just looking at your life and, over 40 years, in this field, pushing forward despite the ups and downs that you've went through, right? And you are a personal testimony to the words that you are saying. Thank you for sharing those words of advice to the audience. And even for myself, as someone that is new into this field, that wants to, very similar like you have a certain vision, right? There's a mountain that we want to climb up to, but sometimes it's just one step at a time that you're saying. So thank you so much there. And I'm sure we could talk for hours on end on this topic, but I will leave the audience with the information on the links to your website and all the courses and the wonderful offerings that you have there. So thank you again so much, Konstantin, for your time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.